a verse. Was everyone, let me ask Zoomers first. Did everyone get an email notification that they have access to the Cuadro folder?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Did everyone here get access to the Cuadro folder? A Google notification. You can say I don't need to say. No, I don't need to say it. I'm fine. I'm sure. I have more in my car, but I'll bring those for next time.
I don't think I got an email like that, Alice.
Say that again?
I don't think I got that kind of an email. I got the email with your recording in it, but
Okay.
I don't remember getting a Cuadro
So
Sept.
it wouldn't be from me, it would be from Google Drive. It sends like a notification. So sometimes it goes to people's junk mail because it's not coming from me. I think it comes from Google and says it's on my behalf that I've shared something with you.
Okay, I'll check.
But if not, I can send the link as well. Okay, so we're gonna review today to start off, just to make sure we're getting all this stuff because it's a lot of information. Let me just grab my notes. So we've gotten through the beginning of a patada. So a patada is an improvised dance in flamenco. And we're looking at a patada in tangos. So we're working in this 8-count rhythm. And our goal by the end of this session is to be able to improvise a patada and improvise it well and know what's happening. So even when it doesn't turn out the way we want it to, we can think about, well, why didn't it work out? Or what happened that things kind of didn't connect as well as they could have? So we're in tangos. So we're going to review our tangos rhythm here. So we have two kinds of palmas, sordas, which are muffled, and our claras, which are clear. And hold. Our tangos groove. I'm going to say groove rather than rhythm because groove has a swing to it, and we want to have a swing. We're not a metronome. So we have golpe, loud, soft, loud. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And our variation on this is loud, soft, soft, loud. Loud, soft, soft, loud. Loud, soft, soft, loud. Try that with claras. Loud, soft, soft, loud. Loud, soft, soft, loud. So typically when we end a phrase, we end on count 7 if we're counting every clap as a beat. So 7 is when we end our phrases together. We're going to go ahead and sing the guitar. We don't have Bruce here with us today, but that's okay. We can sing our guitar. So our guitar rhythm, we have the golpe, which is the ring finger. 1, pria, pria, bom, bom, priam, bum. Let's try that. 5, 6, 7, and 1. Pria, pria, bom, bom, priam, bum, pria, pria, bom, bom, priam, bum, pria, pria, bom, bom, priam, bum, cria, cria, bom, bom, priam, bum, cria, cria, bom, bom, priam, bum. That's it. So we'll try and do that in this class when there isn't a verse going on so that we can know if we're on the front half or the back half of the measure. Because the palmas alone don't tell us that, because the front half and the back half of the measure are exactly the same, right? So we need that guitar that cycles through certain chords so that we know where we are in the measure. And when we get crossed, it's called cruzado, with a guitarist or with the music as a dancer, or vice versa. It's because someone's on the front half and someone's on the back half. We're not on the same half at the same time. So that's what cruzado means. So we always want to make sure we're on the same half of the compás. So that's our base that we start from. That's like our canvas. We've made our canvas now. We can start to put a dance on it. So in our possibilities in our opening, so before we even get to the dancing, there's some things that can happen, right? So the guitarist can play a melody, and that's actually pretty common for the opening of dances. The guitarist opens with a melody and then settles into the groove. The singer can start, so the singer would sing a salida, their own salida separate from the dancer, their own entrance separate from the dancer. Or you can just have the rhythm and start going. In a juerga setting, in a jam session, a kind of informal jam, typically when you jump into a new rhythm, a singer or various singers are going to sing several verses before anyone starts dancing. So the dance, usually in juergas, tends to take sort of a back seat. And the singing sets the stage, and then eventually someone gets up and dances. But the singing typically will happen with several verses before anyone gets up and dances. So I think that's most of our options for before we even get up as dancers, things that can happen. Any questions about any of that? No questions. All right, great. So then our salida in the dance. For now, for dancers in this class, I'm giving you two options. If you know more options, you're welcome to use those. Our two options in the steps we use are slow, quick, quick, slow, quick, quick, slow, quick, quick, slow, or just slow walks on the music. 1, 2, 3, 4. Using your hips. Tangos is all about how we use the music with our hips. We also have two options in how we move in space. We can circle, really claim the space, the full circle of space, or you can just walk straight out to the center. So two different ways you can actually use the space and claim the space. While that's going on, people could just keep compás, keep the rhythm going. The guitarist, this is relatively rare, but the guitarist could play a melody, a falseta. And this is a little more common, is the singer sings a salida. So last week we learned a salida. Ayalia, lia, 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 li. Ayalia, ayalia, lia, 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 li. Ayalia. And so this question, I think, arose last week. How do we know it's coming to an end? So typically they'll sing it through twice, but that's not necessarily a guarantee. So listening for this big push and then this big fall in the tones and in the quality of the voice are telling us the singer's coming to an end. So I'm going to finish my salida with their salida, so we end together. If there's just rhythm happening, we can't just be percussionists. We also have to be percussionists with our voice. So when someone first gets up, that's a great time to give them extra encouragement. So you can shout ole, guapo or guapa. And I'm going to add a couple more to this. So we can shout SOS. Let me write this down. ESO is one word, and then the second word ES. SOS, that's it. And a second jaleo that's commonly used is arsa, A-R-S-A. So those are two common jaleos we're going to add to our list of jaleos. So we have arsa, SOS, guapo or guapa, and ole, of course, our sort of most common one. Yes, doesn't mean anything. So arsa is really, it's kind of like ole. It doesn't necessarily have a meaning.
So it's like these things that like when we say to a baby, oh, I don't know, when seems like more from the sound, so I think it comes from asa, which is a way to asa, to encourage like a little kid that's ready to walk, asa, you say asa. But then the Spaniards tend to add an R, kind of like the British add an R in some of the words, like,
Yes.
and so I think that's where the asa, right? Must come from asa, from like encouraging somebody.
Right.
And then the R comes in because
The Andalusian accent adds that R. So it really doesn't have a meaning other than like encouragement. Yeah. And arsa, with the R, SOS does mean something. It means that's it. That's it. Yeah. Go for it. So SOS does have a meaning. So we'll add those two jaleos in for today. So we're up now. We've talked through the salida. The transition now out of the salida. We somehow have to transition. So we have two options in this class. You're welcome to get up and do them if you want. Right now we have two options. I can do a recoge. So a recoge is anything that moves backwards in space. And as a dancer, I tend to sort of collapse in my upper body a little bit. So I can do golpe and a hop, or I could take 3 steps back. 1, 2, 3. So those are two recoges, ways to gather in. The other option is a cambio, where I change direction and I'm going to move forward 3 steps forward. 1, 2, 3. So if I started facing this way, I'm going to like go around a corner. 1, 2, 3. I could also take 3 steps forward. 1, 2, 3. And it needs that sort of extra little push. I'll often add a little head to that. 1, 2, 3. And that head also sort of closes off that section. So I will say, and I don't think I've said this yet, as far as where you give jaleo, so when someone first gets up, that's a great time to offer them encouragement. As they're claiming their space, you can still continue to do that. It's less common to hear jaleo when someone's making themselves small and backing up. It's not like a moment you want to be like, yeah, go for it, right? Because you're getting ready for something. You haven't done anything yet. So you're not going to hear a lot of jaleo on a recoge. And typically you're not going to want to give a lot of jaleo as they prepare. But when they go into the next step, into a llamada, let's say, into a desplante, then yes. Then you want to sort of, what's the word I want? Like, boister that? Not a word, I'm making up words. Bolster that. Bolster that. That desplante with jaleos. Asa! Da, 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 da. And at the end, so after they've finished their desplante, they did a really awesome desplante. Eso es, at the very end of it. So those are some common places that you would hear jaleo. So it is in fact, like, yes, you can say it whenever you feel it, but there are times that are more appropriate than others. And that's one thing I'll say, like if you go to Spain or you go to a flamenco jerga and you give a big loud ole in the middle of a recoge, everyone's gonna turn and look at you and be like, who is that person and what's that about? So there's a lot of freedom. You can give jaleo when you like any step that's done or when someone really has a beautiful attitude or presence or what have you. But there's nuances then to where and when we give it. So that's
I had
a
a
little.
question.
Say that again?
I had a question about the haleos.
Yes.
So, if it is an 8-beat cycle like we were doing or a 12-beat, is there a particular beat at which you give haleo, like at the beginning or the end? Or like maybe if it is an 8-beat, do you do at 7th or something like that?
So on the desplante, you can definitely give on count 1 because we have 5, 6, 7, asa, right on count 1. And then as far as the ends, if we end it and 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you could do it on the 7 or just after, once they've finished and it's sort of resolving. 5, 6, 7, this way. So sort of tying on to that resolve of the remate also makes sense. Does that answer that? And then if a dancer is just marking time, or when the singer sings a climactic moment, that could happen in the middle of a measure. So that depends more on the verse and how the dancer's reacting to it. Does that answer that? Okay, great. So we've gotten through our transition to call in a verse, which we could think of as part of the beginning of the dance, or part of the middle, the meat of the dance. We have a few options to call in a verse. So I've claimed my space. I can just start marking. So just keeping time. This is probably, I think, one of the most scary ones to do as a dancer, because you have to really hold the space in a very simple way, which requires a lot of presence and confidence, I guess I would say, in that. Whereas a llamada is big and it's busy, and everyone sort of comes underneath you to support that. So using a desplante to call in the verse is in some ways easier, in some ways harder, because the step is more complicated. So we can use a desplante, and let's all get up and review our desplante. So the desplante so far we have one desplante, and it starts on count 1. Do it this way. We have a preparation on 8 and a golpe on 1. 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 and 7. To the right, to the left, up, 3 steps forward. You can end in various positions with your arms. Let's try that again. 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 and 7. To the right, to the left, and 1, 2, 3. So that's our desplante, which is being used to call in a verse in this case right now. And it has 2 parts to it. So the opening, the actual desplante step, and then the second part is a remate. So we're tying off the end of the desplante, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we want to be able to distinguish the first half from the second half. Let's try the llamada desplante one more time. 5, 6, 7, llamada. Step back, ba, 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 ba. To the right, to the left, and 1, 2, 3. That's it. Great. Our remate, just the second half. 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's it. Excellent. So we can also use just the remate if you wanted to call in the verse. So we have 3 options to call in the verse. We just mark time, we do a full desplante, or we do a remate. And the remate in some ways functions more as it's closing out that opening, whereas the desplante really functions as calling in a verse. So that's where I kind of say, well, it's kind of the end of the beginning, but it's kind of the beginning of the middle, that kind of transition. I think that's everything we've covered so far. Any questions on any of that from anyone? No questions. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get a chance for everyone to do a salida and somehow call in a verse. So you don't know what's gonna happen. I might sing a salida, I might not. If you did this last week, try and do something different so that you're just getting comfortable with the different possible options. Yeah. So we'll have the in-person people go first, and then we'll have the Zoomers go.
Alice?
Yes.
Alice?
Yes.
Can I suggest that when the Zoomers go, that there's no palmas? Because it just is mush and we can't find the compás.
Okay.
When we're Zooming, no, don't have any palmas.
Okay. What if
When
just I give palmas?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll try that. Great. Thank you. Here we go. We'll do palmas for now, but when they go, I'll just do palmas. Priya, priya, pom, pom, priyam, pam. So whenever someone's ready, priyam, pam, priya, eso es. Priyam, pam, priya, priyam, pam, pom, priyam, pam, priya, priyam, pam, pom, priyam, pam, priyana, priyana, que bonita esta priyana. That's it. I'm not going to sing a whole letra yet. That's it. Great. The jaleo is a little on the not so great side. Priya, priyam, pom, pom, priyam, pam. 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 Priya, priyam, pom, pom. Eso es.
Eso. Alza, alza. Eso.
Ay, ponte guapa, mariquilla. Ay, ponte guapa, mariquilla. Eso es, bien. Ta, 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 ta. Priya, priyam, pom, pom, priyam, pam. 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 Eso es. Anda.
Eso, eso. Guapa, guapa. Alza. Guapa.
That's it. Bien. Eso es. Anda.
Eso, guapa. Ole, ole.
Eso es. Eso es. Ta 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 ta. Priya priyam pom pom priyam pam. Priya priyam pom pom priyam pam. Priya priyam pom pom priyam. Priyana, Priyana. Bonita esta Priyana. That's it. Priya priyam pom pom priyam pam. Priya priyam pom pom priyam pam. Priya priyam pom pom priyam pam. Eso es. That's it. All right. Well, everyone here went. Yes, yes. We'll switch to Zoom. Who wants to go first? Sherry. Here we go. Let me. Here we go. Priya priyam pom pom priyam pam. 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 That's it. Great. Who else wants to go?
I can try.
It's much better.
Much better with just me doing palmas.
Yeah,
Great.
you can hear it clearly, yeah.
Here we go. Priya priyam pom pom priyam pam priya priyam pom pom priyam pam priya priyam pom pom priyam pam priya priyam pom pom priyam. That's it. Anyone else on Zoom? Olivia. Here we go. Let me pin Olivia. All right. Priya priyam pom pom priyam pam priya priyam pom pom priyam pam priya priyam pom pom priyam pam priya priyam pom pom priyam pam. That's it. Awesome. So, all right. So a few things before we go on to a verse. Part of this is my fault because I forgot to sing the guitar sometimes, but the transitions, in and out of the transitions, right? So everyone, mostly, I think it's feeling more comfortable standing up out of their chair, which we mentioned last week. Is no one talks about how hard that is. It's very hard to actually stand up and say like, okay, I'm gonna go now. I have to stand up. That takes a lot of, I don't know what, a lot of cojones. I don't know. It does. So once you're up, I see more confidence with that than circling or coming straight out. So a couple things that were unclear in several people is if I'm going to go into marking, if I go slow, quick, quick, slow, quick, quick, slow, and then I kind of start marking, it feels like I didn't quite finish my entrance, and then I started marking, so it's not clear if I'm done with my entrance and I want a verse, or it's just not clear, right? So we always want to be as clear as possible. So if I come out slow, 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 there has to be some change in my body that says, it can be subtle, but it has to, I have to have clear in my head, I'm done with my entrance, now I'm just going to mark so that the singer knows I'm ready for a verse, right? So even if you go straight into marking, it has to be clear that you have to be clear in your head that now you're in a new part. And that's where if you come out like with slow walks, do a full circle, or make it very clear I'm coming straight to the center, now I'm in the center. So that distinction has to be really clear for the guitarist or the singer to read that. So that's one thing. So be clear in how you use the space to distinguish the opening from the middle section of the dance. Then the timing. So a llamada, you can't think on count one you're going to do a llamada. You have to know before count one you're doing a llamada, which is where the recoge is really helpful. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here I go, llamada. So my recoge prepares me and the musicians that a llamada is going to happen. So that's where a recoge, if you're going to do the llamada, for now I'm going to say always do that. That's the clearest way to be clear. Recoge, gather in, so you can open up for the llamada, which happens on count one. If your llamada isn't on count one, you're going to be off from the musicians, and you're not going to have that support, right? Because you're not on the one. And then they might try and catch you. Things could potentially fall apart just from that. So that hitting that one, if you're doing the llamada, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1. Be very clear with that one. If you're doing a recoge or a cambio, 5, 6, 7, it's on that second half of the measure. If it happens on the first half of the measure, it's not going to be read by the musicians as a recoge or a cambio. If I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, it's kind of like I leave it hanging. I've just opened, but there's still another half of the measure. So these are some of the little things that I'm seeing. So let's try this one more time, everyone. Yes.
That was really good. The 1, 2, 3, 4, here I go. That in itself, like to do count 1, 2, 3, 4,
Oh,
That sounds like it's perfect because here I go and then I do it in my
yes.
So I like that. Here I go. It's 5, 6, 7.
Here we go. That's what I say in all the classes. Here we go. But you have to say that with your body. So that's your job when you're dancing, is to say, here I go with your body. And open, right? So that's your job with your body, because I'm not going to be there to say, here we go, right? So you have to say that with your body.
And then the other thing is, I was, of course, once it's in the middle, like everything goes away. So I was expecting to hear your lady, like whatever,
Oh.
and I didn't hear it, and then I didn't know, okay, what's going on here? What should I do?
So that's a couple people I forgot to sing the guitar with. So then you don't know if you're on the first or the second half. So that's my fault. But even if that happens, own it. This is the first half of the compás, because I put my llamada there.
And that yam calls a cambio.
Say that again.
That calls a cambio. It's a llamada to a cambio. So
It's a llamada to a llamada is 2 compás typically. You can have more compás. But with the desplante step, I have 2 compás. Desplante, pa 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 pam, into a remate. So to do a desplante, we're pretty much always going to attach a remate to the end of it. And you could even sort of take it apart more, and it ends with a cambio, right? But that goes into a verse. So what we're looking at right now is, how do I transition from my opening, I claim my space, I announce I'm dancing with my body, to getting a verse sung for you with clarity. That's the goal right now. Does that make sense? Yes.
I think it's real simple to say. It's so complicated, the homework you gotta do. Navigation. Because this is basically, can I do this? This is making me nuts. Sorry. I need to work on more navigation. Isn't this like, it's mostly improv, but yet it's very exact and needs to be clear.
Right.
Like you said, otherwise you mess the whole group up, but you got this, and this, the same as the interaction. So I think I need a lot, I keep studying in the work here for navigation, because I'm not even sure of this and that. I'm getting hung up on counts. My body's ready to go. This is go. But I have to count, and I go by da da da, or and to this and and to that. I don't go by numbers lots of times. Even I've been a musician,
Right.
Earlier as a kid. So we don't hear about all my life and biography and my aspirations here, but I think I call it flamenco math. And I think I just gotta work on it.
Yeah, well,
I feel like I just don't have a clear navigation or something like that. Is it like 3 compás or 3 12s, and then hit it with a 4 and a 6 and da da da, da 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 da, and then do it. But I get what you're saying, recoge, remate, and all these pieces that you put together, they put together. But navigation, I just have to improv and do it. I can't do it exact just yet.
right, that's what we're going to do. We're going to do it again. So you have another chance. Another chance, just through the same thing. So through calling in the verse, and I might sing the first line of the verse for you. But be clear with when your opening ends and how you prepare to call in the verse. So you be clear with the opening, be clear with the end of the opening, a recoge or a cambio, be clear with how you're asking for a verse. So we have 3 things that have to happen. Number 1, be clear in taking the space. Number 2, be clear in transitioning out of that section, recoge or cambio. And then be clear in how you call in the verse, desplante, remate, or just mark. But the marking has to still be clear. It can't, the opening, the salida can't run into the marcaje. It still has to be clear. You can use a cambio, and then start marking from the cambio. Everything, a desplante and a remate start on a 1 or 8-1, and a recoge or a cambio start 5, 6, 7. If you do a recoge or a cambio, or if you do a recoge into a llamada, 5, 6, 7, llamada. You don't recoge, wait, and then llamada. It has to be one into the other, right? I've prepared, I have to go for it. Yeah, does that make a little more sense? And a lot of it is you can't learn until you do it and figure out, well, wait, why didn't that work? Why wasn't that clear? and being able to analyze that on other people as well. So let's try it again. We'll do the in-persons first, and then we'll switch to Zoom. 5, 6, 5, 6, 7, and priya priyam pom pom priyam pam priya priyam pom pom priyam pam la lo la lo la and hold. So what did Addie do? What was the first thing that happened?
Entrada, salida,
She did a salida. She claimed the space. How did she claim the space?
walking.
In a circle, walking. Great. Then what happens?
She did a recoge.
She did a little recoge, I think, yes?
Yeah.
Kind of brought everything in. Not necessarily exactly one that we have, but it was clear that that end section, sorry, let me do it so that you can see. It was clear her salida was done. She was done with it, hands on her hips, ready for something new. And then what did she do?
Llamada.
No, she did not do a llamada.
She did a desplante.
She did not do a desplante.
Marcaje.
A remate. It was one measure and there was no open close that we see in a desplante. I don't know exactly what. So she used her own remate. 5, 6, 7. So there was a rhythmic opening and a close on 7, but it was only one measure long. So she used a remate as a call for the verse. She used a remate as a llamada, but she did not use a desplante step, right? It was just one measure. Any questions about Addie's patada so far?
So you can do that then, use that remate as the thing.
Yes. This is where it gets tricky. So then it's functioning as a llamada. She used her remate as a llamada, as a call. But it was just one measure long, so it's not a full desplante llamada. But it functions to call in the verse. Yes?
It was very nice. So after you kind of finish your salida, then since the remate is on the 5, 6, 7, was there a 1, 2, 3, 4 transition or no?
She just sort of stepped out of the salida. She walked in a circle, and then I think she just stepped together like on 7.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1,
No,
2, 3, 4.
that was 6, 7.
Well, but the remate is the 5, 6, 7, or no?
No, a remate, the way I'm using remate in this class, which this is where a remate right now, we're going to think of a remate as one compás for now. It does not have to be one compás, but for now we're going to think of it as one compás. So her end of her salidas, she walked, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. On 7, there was a clear close. I could see in her body. Feet came together, hands to her hips. I'm like, okay, she's done with her salida. That was clear. And then she used one measure to put in a step, 5, 6, 7, 6, 7, however you ended it. And so that announced to me, she ended 6, 7, one compás. Now I can start singing. Yeah, is it starting to make sense? Let's do this again, someone new. 1, 2, 3, 4. Priya priyam pom pom priyam pam 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 priya priyam pom pom priyam pam. Eso es. Priya priyam pom pom priyam pam. Eso es. Triana, Triana. Eso es. Good. And hold. So what did Francisca do?
Salida, recoge, desplante, llamada.
Yep, you got it. So did you walk in a full circle? No, you walked straight out.
I'm gonna just do that.
Just walk straight out. Was there a recoge? No.
Thinking of my 7 feet.
But it was maybe not as clear as it could be, but it was clear enough because she came exactly to the center in one straight line and then went into the Yamada. So it could be a little clearer, I think, just in the body of like, okay, I'm ready to go into the Yamada. But it was clear enough for me to see Salida's done. She got to the exact center. And then from there, went into the Yamada right on count 1. So that was perfect. And closed it at the end of the second measure for the Splante Yamada. So great. Here we go. Great. And hold. So what did Hannah do? Came to the center with slow walk, straight to the center. Then what happened?
It looked like a desplante.
She did a recoge. It was little, but it was there. And then a desplante llamada. And so then I could start singing. Great. Here we go. That's it. Good. So what did Sunday do?
Walked in with a little bit of a sway. She did do a preparation. And it seemed like a remate.
A remate. And also, so it was one measure, I think, but I didn't quite feel the end, the close on 7. So that's where I was like, is she going to keep going? But then it kind of just fizzled into marcaje. And we do always want to end clearly, especially when we're improvising. In choreography, you can be a little more creative in how things go in and out. But if I'm doing a remate, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I need to be really clear about that 7. Otherwise, the musicians are going to think, that you're doing a double remate or a triple remate, and you're going to keep going. So it has to close clearly on 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And it also gives you a break, even a very short break on count 8. 5, 6, 7. To breathe for a second before you start marking. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think it's got to 6 and wasn't sure what I was going to do next.
So this is where improvising, I would say you can make steps up on stage. I'm not going to say you can't do that. You can do that. But I think it's much more effective to learn how to improvise if you know the remates you're going to use ahead of time. If you have like an arsenal of remates. Right now in this class, we've learned 1 remate and 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can make up other remates. You might know other remates. But try not to make steps up on the spot. I'm not saying you can't do that. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But for now, I think it's easier to learn the structure If you're more concerned with where does this block, this step go, or what block can I use in this instance? Does that make sense? Yes.
So what you're saying is for the round, it's not the steps that communicate that like okay spring versus the step, the end on the step.
Yes. Yes. So usually you need to set up the remate in some way, even if it's just ending like Addie did. She ended her salida 7, and then something rhythmic 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we know it's over on the 7, and we know we can go into the next section. So yes, thank you. So it has, for now, again, it's another rule that is not all the time rule, but for now, to learn the structure, always end on 7. That's your clearest bets if you're improvising with musicians. Let's go. Priya priyam pom pom, priyam pam, priya priyam pom pom, priyam pam. This way. Priyam pom pom, priyam pam, priya priyam pom pom, priyam pam, priya priyam pom pom, priyam pam, priya priyam pom pom, priyam pam. Yay! That's it. Great. What did Christina do? Say that again. She claimed that space. That was like, there was no question whether or not she was taking the space. And we know that from the way she held her body. And you really went to the extreme of the circle. So there was no holding back in claiming that space. That's what we want, right? Really took that space. Great use of our slow, quick, quick, and the arms. Then what happens? What did Christina do next?
Recoge,
There was a very clear recoge. And then what happened next?
desplante.
A desplante. But it was slightly late. But you know what? Here's the thing that's really important. Because you did everything so clear with your body and with so much confidence, she pulled us to where she was in the compás. Ideally, you don't want to be late, right? But we had no choice but to follow her, right? Because otherwise it's like, do we go with her, do we not? But it was so clear that like, this is where we're putting the llamada. We just caught her with that. Yeah, because it was so clear. Ideally, you go 5, 6, 7, llamada, right into it. 5, 6, 7, llamada. But because you were so clear with your body, we could catch you, even though you were late. So that's really important, and that's one of those things that like is so flamenco that you have to just go for it. There's no halfway. That you just have to be clear and go for it. So great. Yes.
When we start do we start counting as soon as we begin to move? You know what I'm saying? Like, do we? Because I was, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like, when do we start counting? We start the count? I don't get
So you don't have to count. There's no like set number of measures. I could take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I could take half a measure to come forward if I wanted to. Or I could take this, it's maybe not a good idea, but you could take 15 measures and just spend forever, take your time, mark a little bit, keep circling around. You could take forever. Probably not the best choice, but there's no amount of measures. What matters is, do you know where you are in the compás? Are you, so that when you're ready to do a llamada or a recoge, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, that you do the recoge on the second half and the llamada on the first half. It could be on your second compás in the dance, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1. Or it could be on the 20th compás. But as long as it's on the right half of the compás, that's what matters. So my guitar singing, which is, not really all like a guitar, but at least gives us an idea. Pa priya priyam pom pom priyam pam. So hearing that first half, ba priya priyam pom pom priyam pam. I can tell if I'm on the first or the second half.
Combine the, like, where you are in counting, you can sing it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right?
Yes.
3, 4. So when we hear done, oh, that's a 5, 6, 7, 8.
And this, I think it's Bruce. Bruce is here now. The second half of the guitar is lower. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, goes back to the tonic.
Yeah. So it's that sort of more settled half. It feels settled to me. Priya priya boom boom priyam bum. Then I know it's the second half of the measure, because it's the tonic, our sort of home notes. It's lower than that first half. Does that help? I think we have one more person that needs to go again. Yeah, and then we'll switch to the Zoomers. 5, 6, 5, 6, 7, and priya priyam bum bum priyam bum priya priyam bum bum priyam bum priya priyam bum bum priyam bum priya priyam bum bum priyam priyana priyana que bonito. Great. So what did Tiani do?
Salida, recoge, marcaje.
So she did a what I'm calling a cambio,
Cambio, cambio.
which so I was able to catch her right away in the marcaje because I assumed she's not recogiendo, so she's probably going to start marking. I could see that in her body. She was facing me, which I think helps a little bit. But from those 3 steps, I had a sense that you were going to go into the marcaje. There was no preparation to go into something big. There was no preparation to go into something rhythmic. So I went ahead and said, okay, she's probably going to go into marcaje now. So I caught her immediately on her first marcaje. She didn't have to wait for me to start singing, because she was so clear with that cambio.
Right.
Yeah?
It was very soft. It didn't indicate that that was going to go into anything strong, punching
Right.
out. Yeah.
Right. So as the singer, I'm able to read that and know and react to that, right? Great. So let's switch to Zoom. Sherry, do you want to keep going first?
Sure, sure, sure.
Here we go.
Marking time.
Priya priyam pom pom priyam pam 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 priya priyam pom pom priyam pam. That's it. Great. So, what did Sherry do? I don't know. Oh, I don't know. So I can say what she did. She did a salida in a circle, and then she did a recoge with the hops, and then a llamada, the full desplante llamada. Correct?
Right.
Yes. So it was all very clear. Great. Who wants to go next? Sujata. Here we go.
I can try.
Here we go. Priya priyam pom pom priyam pam kriya kriyam 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 pom pom priyam pam. That's it. Good. So it's a little tricky with the Zoom, but I think you did a full circle salida, a recoge, and the desplante llamada. Is that correct? Yes.
Yeah, I tried.
Yes, great. That's what it looked like. So all 3 parts of those were very clear. It skipped a little, it froze for a second right before the llamada, but that was still clear, even with the Zoom stutter. So Great. And did Olivia want to, where did Olivia go? I think Olivia had to leave. Anyone else on Zoom that wanted to go for it? All right, so we have 3 minutes left. So we're not going to get to a verse today. Let me pin my video. So we're not going to get to a verse today because I really want these openings to be clear and to make sure you're setting everything up clearly, because the same ideas are going to exist in the verse. If I want to put in a remate in the verse, I have to set it up clearly to show the musicians that I'm going to go into a remate. Or to call in a second verse, I have to be clear to the musicians that I want a second verse. So all of these ideas are still present throughout the rest of the dance. And sort of this general idea of how do I set up and communicate clearly with my body. And the phrasing in tangos is we're always going to end something on 7. And that's, as Hannah pointed out, one of these, that's a signal in itself. If I am doing a remate or a double remate where I put 2 together, that means I can't stop on 7. I'm going to sort of run through the 7 and go to the next 7. And that's going to signal that running through the first 7 signals to the guitarist or musicians, she's not done with this remate yet. She's still doing something rhythmic. It's still building. Let's wait and see if she closes on the next 7. And then maybe I run through that 7. And so they know, okay, she's doing a triple remate. And then we get to that final 7 where I end it, and we can end together. So that 7, if we're counting in the full 8s, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's our key. That's a big key to some of the phrasing as well. Any questions on any of this? A triple remate? Let me think. So I could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I ran through that first 7. Now you could end on 7 and then do another remate. Then we get into complicated things. But typically, like if I finish something 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that's the end of that thing. Typically, if I'm closing on 7, it's the close of whatever that thing happens to be. You could. It wouldn't be wrong. But typically, it would be the end of something on 7. Yes. So then if I'm marking, any marking step, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 2, 3, 4, that I don't end. Or I don't end it until I'm done marking. So if a verse comes in or a guitarist is playing a melody, I can switch the marking steps I'm using, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then to get out of it, I can do a recoge or I can do a cambio, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if I want to put something in, like let's say I realize at the last minute a singer is doing his kind of big push in the verse. So I catch it at the last minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2. I don't necessarily have to prepare. We'll get into that more in the verse. But for now, if you close on 7, you've closed. You've closed whatever that step is, be it a llamada, your salida, a recoge, a cambio. That ending on that 7 signifies that you've ended that step. Yeah. And even in the llamada, if we look at the desplante, llamada 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 7, 8, and 1. There's this little weight shift on 8. I don't know if you guys can see that. 6, 7, 8, and 1. So that little weight shift shows the guitarist, I'm not done with this step yet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 7, 8. On that 8, I'm in the middle of a movement. So it's pretty clear I'm not done. I'm not gonna end in this weird in-between shape, right? And 1, that I have to keep going through that next measure. So it's not a full stop on that 7.
You want me to play what that would sound like? I don't repeat the high tone again. I just go straight through again.
Yes, that would be lovely.
So it'll be, you started out. You keep it down, so to speak.
Great.
Did that help at all?
Say that, I didn't catch that last part.
Did that help at all? Hearing the sound.
Yes. Could you play it one more time maybe for us, if you don't mind?
Yep.
Great. Yes, that would be how the full llamada sounds. Any questions on the beginning section of a patada? And if you haven't had a chance to look at the Google Drive, I'm going to call our structure, it's labeled right now as framework, and it has in it the beginning section, the different parts of the beginning, and our different options we're using in this class to kind of simplify. So take a look at that. And on next Saturday, we will start looking at a verse. But we'll do the salidas one more time. So practice your salidas and practice different options. And also in the Google Drive folder, I put a couple recordings of the verse that we're going to look at in there. I'll try and add some other tangos music so you can listen to that as well. And some videos of dancers dancing por tangos, so you can see some of this. And that's one thing, even if on your own you want to go to YouTube and just search in a dancer you know about plus tangos, or put in tangos plus flamenco, because otherwise you end up with Argentinian tango. And see if you can pick out, for example, the llamadas. Can you see any desplantes? And just catch all the desplantes and notice what happens before and after that desplante. Or see if you can focus just on the recoges. Do the dancers do any recoges or any cambios? And see if you can pick those out. And what happens before that and what happens after that. So try and focus when you watch a video, not just like, oh, that's so pretty. I like her steps. I like the way she moves. But can you start to see these elements in the video and start to pick them out? And that's a good way to watch in a way that's studious rather than a way that you're just being entertained. Not that there's anything wrong with that. That's great too. But just another way for you to look at these ideas sort of played out in real life. This is real life too, but played out on stage or in a juerga, for example.
You share that this Friday. Could you share the link to the group with everybody that you're doing this workshop on resilience or flamenco resilience?
Say that again? Oh! Okay, so on Friday I'm giving a lecture online at Case Western Reserve University, but online, about flamenco as a practice of resilience. And I will talk briefly. One of the things I'm going to mention that fall under that idea is improvisation and the resilience needed to be able to improvise. That when things don't happen the way you want them to happen in an improvised setting, you have to go with it, and sort of resilience in that way. So I will. That won't be one of my big things, but I am planning on mentioning that as one element of resilience, along with some historical elements of resilience and some of my own artistic work. So I'll send that link to everyone, but it's Friday at 6
On Zoom. You just
on
need to
Zoom.
register and then you'll get a link to
There we go.
It's open to everybody, anybody across the world.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
we have 500 seats, I think.
Oh, wow.
So we're good.
That's frightening.
Only 500 available.
Available seats, available Zoom windows. So thank you. And Francisca is the one that helped organize that. So thank you. I will send that. And if you can't open the Google Drive folder or you don't think you got it, let me know and I'll try and email the link in a different way. But otherwise, that's it. Any other questions?
Could you send us a recording of this class?
Yes, I can do that.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you all. Thank
Thank
you
you.
all.
Hi, everybody. Very clear.